You're muted.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Can, Deputy. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Should be Marion County.
Okay, so you need to be in Judge Anderson's Zoom conference.
Okay, that's my fault. I'm sorry, Judge.
Would you like the meeting ID and password, or do you have it there?
I'd like it if you've got it, please.
Do. Let me know when you're ready to write it down.
I'm ready.
535
535
663
663
1157.
157.
Again, that's 535 663 1157.
Okay, got it.
And the password is 785329.
All righty, thank you, Judge. I appreciate it.
You have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Who do I have at the detention center?
Good morning, Your Honor. This is Jennifer Young.
Okay. All right, this is 22F12. Good morning, Ms. Young. This is on for a preliminary hearing today. Do you all have a copy of the citation in this one? Okay. Are you ready to proceed with the preliminary?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commonwealth want to call its first witness?
You're all right. It doesn't look like our witnesses on. We're gonna reach out to them and see where
Yeah, we kind of need to get them lined up because it's the jail's short. So Attorney Strack, I'm just identifying who's here. Heather George. Harvey Parker. Is Harvey on the docket? I have Harvey Parker on my Zoom conference. Mr. Parker, do you think you have a case on my docket today? Are you observing?
Observing the Roberts case.
Okay, you're absolutely welcome to. I'm just trying to figure out who all I've got here. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Angie, do you have something I can take out? Heather George. Heather, do you have a case on this morning? Okay. Thank you.
you have the officer on that one. If it's in jail, like,
Okay. Jail, do you all have the opportunity to switch out and bring the person in the Roberts case?
Yes, Joseph Roberts.
Joseph Roberts, yes, sir.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. Mr. Roberts?
No, we'll figure it out and do the best we can.
He's here.
Okay. All right, so are we ready to proceed in the Roberts case?
Judge, I'm sorry. I thought I heard the private counsel to take my case, but if not, yes, I am.
Mr. Roberts, have you hired your own attorney, sir?
I have not, have I heard from my attorney?
Have you hired your own attorney, Mr. Roberts?
I have not hired my own attorney. There was a problem with my attorney.
There was a problem with your attorney?
Yes, I was originally given Hannah R. Smith as a public defender.
Yes.
And I believe an attorney by, another attorney had messaged had faxed the.
Mr. Roberts, I've appointed the Department of Public Advocacy to represent you, which is all the attorneys in the Department of Public Advocacy. Ms. Smith is ill.
Okay.
We have a very experienced attorney that is here today handling the matter, okay?
Okay.
Are we ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Commonwealth wish to call its first witness?
We do. We call Detective Bishop.
Detective Bishop, can I get you to raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm, sir, that the testimony you're going to give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
You may ask.
You can go ahead and state your name.
Nelson W. Bishop.
Okay, and you're a detective with the Campbellsville Police Department, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
On or about January 16th of this year, do you have an investigation involving Joseph Roberts?
Yes, sir.
If you can please explain to the court your investigation.
Yes, sir. On Sunday, January 16th, around 12:20 p.m., the Campbellsville Police Department received a message through their Facebook page. The message was sent by Joseph Blake Roberts. It read, "Please get to 600 Duffy in North Jackson now. Justin George is violating his DVO with Tara Diane Keltner. I can't call 911. He is in the house. Campbellsville Dispatch received a phone call from Lieutenant Scotty Perry, and Lieutenant Scotty Perry told them about the Facebook message. Officers were dispatched to that location. At approximately 12:30 p.m.,
Like Detective.
Lieutenant residence.
If you may need to back up a little bit, I think
We
the Zoom
glitched for a few
yeah.
seconds, Detective. If you could go back. The last thing really we heard was that there had been a Facebook message to the police department advising the decedent was violating a domestic violence order and that he was in the house and he couldn't call.
Okay. Then Campbellsville Dispatch, they dispatched officers to the scene after they were contacted by Lieutenant Scotty Perry. He told them about the Facebook message. Lieutenant Shannon Wilson, he arrived on scene. As he was walking up to the residence, dispatch advised him by radio that they had received a phone call from a female subject that was inside the residence, and she reported that a subject had been shot inside the residence. As Lieutenant Wilson walked toward the back of the residence, he noticed a male subject that was identified as Joseph Blake Roberts. Roberts told Lieutenant Wilson that he was the one that had shot Justin George. Roberts told Lieutenant Wilson that George was inside the residence. He also told Lieutenant Wilson that the gun he used was inside the residence, along with a female subject. When Lieutenant Wilson entered the residence, he located Justin George in the dining room area, lying on the floor, and he appeared to be deceased. Lieutenant Wilson also observed a female that was identified as Tara Keltner. She was in the living room area, sitting on the couch. Anna Keltner, a sister to Tara Keltner, she was located in an upstairs bedroom. She appeared to be asleep when officers arrived. The crime scene was photographed. Evidence was marked. It was photographed. It was bagged. It was collected. All those items that were collected are listed here on this case report. Mr. Roberts, he was transported to the Campbellsville Police Department for an interview. Once I arrived, I interviewed him. He agreed that he was read the Miranda warning. He agreed to talk to me. He reported that Tara Keltner had an active DVO against Justin George. Roberts reported that in the past, George had said that he had hated Tara Keltner. Mr. Roberts reported that on this day, George showed up at the residence with no keys to the residence. He walked into their bedroom where they were both sleeping, where Tara Keltner and Roberts were sleeping. He reported that he had brought breakfast for everyone. Roberts reported that George was acting like nothing had ever happened in the past between George and Keltner. Roberts reported that he'd heard that George had been using drugs and other stuff. He reported to me that he'd contacted Campbellsville Police through the Facebook page. He also reported that while he was in the bedroom, Justin George and Tara Keltner was in the kitchen dining room area. He heard them talking, and then he heard them talking louder. At this point during the interview, Mr. Roberts said that he believed he should talk with an attorney before talking to me anymore or saying anything else. At that time, the interview was ended. Tara Keltner, she was interviewed. She reported to me that she was asleep in her bedroom with Joseph Blake Roberts. She reported that she was awakened by Justin George standing in her bedroom. Keltner reported that she was surprised to see George in the residence. George told her that he had brought breakfast over for everyone and he was wanting to take a shower while he was at the residence. Keltner reported that George and herself went into the dining room kitchen area of the residence. She stated that she was sitting on the couch and she was looking at the breakfast plate that George had given her. She stated that she was also looking for the remote control to turn the TV on. Keltner reported that George was standing behind the couch next to the kitchen table, going through the remainder of the breakfast trays. Keltner reported that at the time she heard gunshots. She looked up, she seen George flinch. She noticed that he kind of bent over and was looking down the hallway. She reported that she looked down the hallway and she seen Joseph Blake Roberts with a handgun pointed at Justin George walking towards him. She reported that she yelled at him multiple times to stop. She then ran over to Roberts, took the handgun away from him, went to her bedroom, laid the gun down, picked up her phone and called 911. She went back into the dining room area to check on George, but he was not responding to her. Of course, this case is still under investigation. Anna Keltner, she was interviewed. Her statement's attached. She reported that she was in the upstairs bedroom. She did not witness anything. After looking at Tara Keltner and Anna Keltner's cell phones, it appears that Justin George did send them a message that morning. It said, "Do you all need breakfast before I come over?" It appears that neither one of them responded back to that message because they were still asleep. Again, GSR kits were done on all 4 subjects. They were done on Tara, Anna, Justin George, and Blake Roberts. Those will all be sent to the KSP lab for testing. And I've been quarantined, so I still got other subjects to interview in this case, and the investigation continues.
And with this, Detective Bish, it's my understanding there were multiple shots into Mr. George from Mr. Roberts. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We found a total of 5 shell casings. After talking to the medical examiner, I've not got up there and collected the report from them yet or the evidence that they have, but it appears that he had 3 shots to the body area and 2 shots to the head.
And so so he's been charged with murder based on the totality of your investigation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And he's fence card here in Taylor County.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, pass witness.
You may ask Virginia.
Yes, detective, whose home was this?
I couldn't hear you.
I'm gonna pull my mask off if that's. Fine. Could you tell me again, whose home was this?
Whose phone was it?
Whose
Oh,
home was
house.
it? Virginia, if you want to step up, this is the mic that's picking up. Make
Sorry.
yourself comfortable.
I'm sorry, maybe you can hear me better now. Whose home was this?
The home, Justin George lived there with his girlfriend, Tara Keltner.
Justin was living there at the time?
He had to be removed because there was a DVO issued against him. So he had been out of the house for a couple of residents. So
Okay.
at the time of the shooting, he was actually not living there. He had been removed for the DVO.
All right, so there was a DVO, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and how old was that? Was that a recent filing or is it an older?
Yeah, it was, I think it was signed sometime back in December.
The domestic violence order was entered by the court on the Wednesday before this allegedly took place. The domestic violence order was a no unauthorized contact domestic violence order, and no further acts of domestic violence or abuse order at the request of the petitioner.
Thank you, that's helpful.
I'm just telling you,
No.
it's quite fresh. When these things show up 4 days after.
Sure, that's very helpful, thank you. So Detective, Mr. Roberts, where was he living at the time? Or do you know?
He was, I don't know his address because I don't have my notes with me, but he was staying with Tara Keltner at the time.
Okay, all right. So now, have you examined anyone's cell phones? You mentioned that there was a message about bringing breakfast, but what else? Did you find anything else on that cell phone that would be pertain to this matter?
I have not had time to look at all 4 cell phones. I have a total of 4. I have the 2 girls, Anna and Tara. I have Mr. Roberts' cell phone, and I have the Mr. George's phone as well. But I have not had time to examine all those phones.
Okay, but they are in evidence, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and tell me about the firearm. Did you locate the firearm?
We did.
And can you tell me what type of weapon that was?
It was a Sig Sauer 9mm,
All right, and who did it belong to?
belonged to Tara Keltner.
You said that at the beginning of Mr. Roberts' statement, he had indicated that he heard voices were raising. They were talking and then voices got louder. Was that your testimony?
Yes, that's what he told me.
Okay, but you said then you talked to Ms. Keltner, and did she indicate that there was an argument taking place?
No, ma'am. She said there was no argument, that she was beginning to eat her breakfast, and Mr. George was at the kitchen table looking through the remainder of the breakfast trays that he had brought. She said there was no argument at all.
Okay, and did she indicate whether she was giving, I'm sorry, the deceased, she was giving him permission to be there? I mean,
yes, during her interview, she said that she was with Mr. Justin George on the night before. They went to a church parking lot. They talked for several hours. They were kind of making up. They were trying to, she said that he was apologizing to her, and they went to Walmart, got some supplies because of the snow coming in. And she said that he had asked her if he could come over on the next morning to take a shower. So
okay.
he
And
kind of did have permission.
all right, and so then when he came over, though, he did not announce himself, is that right?
Correct. He walked in the bedroom, and Mr. Roberts and Tara Keltner were both asleep in that bedroom.
Okay, and was he armed?
He was not.
All right, and let me go back through this. Did Mr. Roberts make any statements? I'm just going to make sure that I have this correct. You said when you arrived at the residence, he was sitting out back, and he made the statement that he had been the one who fired the shots. Is that right?
Yes, he was standing out back, and he made those statements to Lieutenant Shannon Wilson.
Okay, and so I'm assuming that he wasn't Mirandized at that time. Is that right?
Right. That was the first time that the officer and him had met.
Right. Okay. So other than that statement and then the short interview that he gave at the police station, was there anything said in between, like in the cruiser or in the, while he was being arrested or in the cruiser?
Not to me. There was a couple of the officers that had sat with him till I got there, and I've not had time to review their supplements yet. So as far as I know, no other conversations in reference to the crime took place.
Did Miss Keltner give you any indication about what the relationship was like between Mr. George and Mr. Roberts?
She advised me that they were good friends. There is a statement you might want to know that I forgot to tell you, if you would like me to tell you that.
Yes, please.
She did tell me that after the shooting that Mr. Roberts told her that he made the statement, and he told her that he will not hurt you anymore.
Okay. All right. All right. And so that as far as your recollection, that was the only statement that she made regarding their relationship, that and the fact that they had been good friends.
She also made a statement that before he walked out of the house, he looked down at Mr. George and said, "I love you, man."
Okay. Okay. And how long, did Ms. Keltner give you any idea how long she had been in a relationship with Mr. Roberts?
She did. They'd been friends for years, all of them. And I think the sexual relationship started about the time the DVO was issued.
Okay. All right. And other than the GSR, was there any other type of testing done? Forensic testing, DNA, anything?
Not at this time. I have all that evidence, and we can send any of that evidence to the KSP lab that needs to be sent.
Okay. And this is probably my last thing. Recording, were any of the statements recorded?
All interviews were recorded except for the statement that he made when Lieutenant Wilson first walked up to him. But his interview and the interview with the girls are recorded.
Okay. And so Officer Wilson, she was not, I'm not sure, is that correct?
No, it's a male.
I'm sorry, he was not wearing body camera?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I don't think I have any other questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further witness, Mr. Commonwealth? The court's going to find probable cause to hold to the grand jury. Looks like bond is set at $500,000 cash, even though he is a low zero. Because of the seriousness of the charge, the court's going to leave bond as is. Virginia, if you wish, the clerk can probably make you all a copy of the domestic violence hearing that was on the Wednesday previously.
I would like to hear that. Yes, thank you.
Just let the clerk know. I'm sure they can burn you a disc of that. Okay. All right. Mr. Roberts, that will conclude your case. Okay.
What point do I get to talk to an attorney or anything?
I'll not come see him today.
Virginia will come see you today, or someone from DPA will be talking with you. What we're doing is we're holding the matter over to the grand jury. The purpose of this hearing was to determine whether there's any evidence which might have suggested that this crime was committed and that you were the person that committed it. Based on that's why we're holding you under bond. It may be sometime before the grand jury can take this matter up.
Yes, sir.
The protection for you. But again, the general practice, bless you, the general practice of this court is that we are willing and open to review bond up until such time as the grand jury does take the matter up. So your attorney would contact us. We'd get hold of a representative of the Commonwealth and we can review your bond at any time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Angie, do you have anything else on? Okay. Who are you bringing me next at the jail? I see we do have Ian McCullough on now, so we can take the matter up.